Alright teachers, this video will, as briefly as possible, show you how to tear down the components of your computer to prepare for the summer, and also how to hook the computer back up next year. Don't let it be something that scares you. If this is something you've never done before, we're going to walk you through the process a step at a time. But to speed things up and make the beginning of the year easier on you so that you can get your devices working, each teacher will be responsible for plugging up their computers next year. So hopefully this will give you the assistance that you need to do this. So let's get started by looking at our setup. So I'm going to get Austin to kind of pan down here and look at our setup. You pretty much have, especially for elementary teachers, you will notice this box. And this is what's called the extendas. Even though it says In Computing on it, that's just the company. When you hear the term extenda, this is what Austin or John or myself or Melanie are referring to. This is what allows you to have the student computers in your classroom. Some of you have 3 or 4 of those computers that feed off of your main teacher unit. So that's the extenda box. Now, high school teachers and some of the upper grade levels, maybe in middle school or higher, you may not have these, and that's fine. But if you do, that's the extenda box. This has it on the top. This is your video splitter box. This is what allows you, especially with the new computers, to project your computer onto your monitor as well as your projector. If you are still working with one of the older computers, yes, you'll be getting a new one, but you may have just an actual splitter coming off the back where it comes out with one cable here into 2 different cables. They both kind of serve the same purpose. So you probably have a splitter somewhere if you have a projector in your room. If you do not have a projector and you don't have one of these boxes, that's fine. You will probably just have a cable running out of your computer going straight into the back of your monitor, which we'll show you in a second. And as far as the extra peripherals, really the extenda and the splitter are the only things. And then obviously you're going to have your mouse and your keyboard. Okay? So at this point, I want to kind of flip the computer around, and this would be where I would suggest starting. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your computer is shut down. Just go ahead and shut it down and power off all the devices. Now this is for the teardown and preparing for the summer break. It is okay to unplug everything at one time, but for the purpose of today's video, I'm going to go ahead and walk through it a step at a time. Because if you unplug all of these cables and hookups at one time, you may have some mess depending on how your room setup is. So let's start with the extendas, okay? And teachers, I want to go slow so you can watch this. You will have one of these devices on each of your student computers. If you look around the table or under the table on your student computer, you're going to see where this purple input is where your student's keyboard goes into. The green one is where your student's mouse goes into, and then this one will hook to your student's monitor. You would want to unhook each of those cables from this box and maybe zip tie them together, bundle them together, bag them up, label them, do something so that you'll know where those cables are next semester when school starts, okay? You may have up to 3, or is 3 the most, Austin? Or can they?
Yeah, no,
most teachers just run 3 extendas. So you will see 3 boxes, and you will each have a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor hookup on those. The biggest thing that happens over the summer is cables get lost. So if you would, when you're tearing the computer down, make sure that you label your cables, maybe even roll them up together, put them in a big Ziploc bag, put them in a box, do something so that you can keep up with those. And then you also have this gray, this is known as an Ethernet cable. Looks like a bigger version of the old landline phone plug, okay? You will each have an Ethernet cable going in those boxes. Just trace that, and that cable will come out there, and then it will run into the back of your computer, usually at the bottom, okay? Depending on what type of monitor or tower you have, you will see your extendas hooked up at the bottom. And this is informal, so Austin, can you think of any type of tower that has them anywhere else besides the bottom?
No,
all right, so you're going to look toward the bottom. You would unplug that cable. So again, unplug from the extender, trace that cable to the bottom of your computer, and you will do that 3 different times, okay? Because you probably have, if you have extendas and student computers, you probably have 3 of them. So you would just take that cable times however many extendas you've got, roll them up, label them, put them somewhere where you will know where they are over the break. Same thing with your extenders. I would put some type of tape or something on the bottom where your names are. I'm not sure if these are required to have an asset tag. So if they do not have an asset tag, then put your teacher name or room number, because it is a small box and it can go missing. So you would just pack that up. Alright, and that's it for the extenders, other than the cables to the monitor for the kids, their keyboards, and their mice. So make sure that you keep those bagged up, boxed up separately. I would encourage you to do a separate box just for the extenders. The second, I would go ahead and easily just unplug the mouse. You will see that it goes into probably a USB connection, but if it for some reason looks like a little round circular, then you've got a PS2 port. Your mouse connection will either look like the square USB or this green PS2. Doesn't matter, they both will work, but you will want to just keep up and notice kind of where you're unplugging your mouse from. Mine, with any USB port on the computer, will be fine. Mine was hooked in this one, so I'm just going to unplug it, roll it up, box it, bag it, put it somewhere where you would need it. Keyboard the same way. It will either be a USB or the PS2. Now usually on your keyboard you'll see the little purple input. Okay, so one of those will either be USB or purple PS2. Don't worry if you don't understand all these terms. You're going to get a sheet that goes along with it, and you should see these terms pop up on the screen as you're watching the video. The next thing would be your Ethernet cable. Now this is where your internet comes into your computer. You will be able to trace this cable to some input on your wall. You want to make sure that you note the input this is plugged into, because not all internet jacks in your room may be active. So you want to trace this cable, identify it on the wall, and look for a number. You should see a number on the wall where you know where to plug it in, okay? And then that just pops out like the phone cable, and you're good to go. Just trace that to the wall input, bag that up, make a note of which input it was plugged in case, you know, when you get ready to come back in the fall, you hook that up correctly. If for some reason you decide to rearrange your room and you need your computer in another location, you're going to want to put in a help desk ticket to let Melanie or John or Austin know, because they will probably have to reroute the jack in your room and hook it up another way so that it will work. In other words, you can't just move your computer across the room without letting someone know, because that jack may not be hot or active and they would need to help you with that. So keep that in mind. Alright, so far we've got the extender, the keyboard, the mouse, and the Ethernet cable. Let's look at your splitter. If you have one of the new computers or one of these splitter boxes, then you will probably have 3 hooked up. I've only got one here for the demo purpose. But this one, if you're looking at the back, this one on the far left is the one that is going to feed from the splitter box into your desktop computer. So you would need one of these cables, and you'll see it'll go from your computer into that leftmost input on the back of the splitter box. You just unplug that, and sometimes, depending on how it's screwed in or not, you may even want to label that with masking tape. You may want to label all these cables with masking tape and just put on there, hey, this went from the computer to the input on the splitter box. The other 2, one will run to your monitor and one will run to your actual projector. Okay? You can leave that cable hanging from the projector routed around your room. You can leave that hanging down the wall or however you have that. You don't have to go climb through the ceiling tiles and unplug that from your projector. So just unscrew. That's kind of why I don't have one on here. You just unscrew that one from the back and leave it where it is. But the one that runs from the splitter box to your monitor, you're going to want to bag up or box up and label. Okay? They are known as VGA cables. Okay? They will have a bluish purple end, and you will see that ours both have a male end. Okay? So you've got that. That will hook from your monitor to your splitter box, and that cable also hooks from your tower to the splitter box. You also have a power adapter that does not need to be lost. This is a powered splitter box. So you will need to label that. If you look at this, It would be very easy to confuse this or lose this. Most of these will actually have the brand name Jodway. Okay, so if he's zooming in and you see that, you probably want to label this as your splitter AC adapter. Okay, so make sure you don't lose that, because this would not work without it, and you'd have to purchase another one. So keep this together, maybe back that up, and that's just, again, your video splitter. Okay. At that point, all that's left is the power cable to your desktop and to your monitor. If you want to keep these power cables together and wrap them around the desktop, that's fine. Just don't do it so tight that you get a sharp corner or you may damage the cable. Same thing with the monitor. Okay, most of the cleaning crew and the janitors that come in are not going to mess with that type of stuff. You can leave these sitting on top of a table, covered with a garbage bag or plastic, to kind of avoid the dust. You can see how easy dust builds up on one of those. And these are your fans. If you allow this to get really dirty, you can clog up and it may lead to damage or not working properly. So that's pretty much the teardown of the computer. Again, you're going to have the keyboard, the mouse. You're going to have a video splitter. You will either have the box, or if you're using the older computer, you will just have the dual adapter coming out the back of the computer. And then you will have the extenders. That's primarily elementary teachers, but they are used in a lot of classrooms, so you want to make sure that you identify that there's a keyboard, that there's a mouse, and that there's a monitor cable for each extender, and also that Ethernet cable that powers that extender. And remember, just a quick review, your extenders are going to be at the bottom, 1, 2, 3. This Ethernet adapter up here is where you plug in the cable from the actual wall outlet in your classroom. These are the extenders, okay? Just for the sake of helping you and showing you, if you have speakers, you will see that your speaker output is going to be green on your computer. And this would be where you could plug in a microphone or something to record with if you had that in your classroom. And a lot of you may have never looked at one of these. This is not really used anymore. This was an older printer parallel port. This is where your monitor plugs up. We don't use this one. These are your USB ports. You can see here you've got 6. That's where you can plug up your Mimeo adapters, your flash drives, your mouse, a lot of you, your keyboard, a lot of you, and then your Ethernet port. But that's really it. It's nothing to really be scared of. I know a lot of you have probably never hooked up your own computer, but it's something that if you learn to do here at school, not only will it save you time, but you can also do it at home, maybe when you get a new computer or when you need to troubleshoot something. So hopefully that'll allow you to watch the video and see how to do a teardown and a breakdown. You can rewind it, watch it as much as you want. I apologize that you have to look at me while you're doing it, but hopefully this will help you. Thank you for your time.